Twisted terror, terror's cry. Twisted terrors in the body, that funny man of fuse that lie. Woo, 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 woo.
Is that right, hon?
What is going on, horror fanatics? Zomboy here. You're watching another episode of Twisted Terrors. On this episode, we're going to be talking about 2025's Beast of War. This movie was directed by Kiah Roache-Turner. It's rated R, and it comes in at an hour and 27 minutes long. I'll read the plot. When their boat sinks while crossing the Turmer Sea during World War II, a troop of young Australian soldiers must find a way to survive the harsh seas on a quickly shrinking raft. Hundreds of miles from anywhere, they must confront interpersonal conflicts, enemy attacks, and the advance of one very large, very hungry great white shark. So let's jump right in. This movie starts off with a group of men. They're in boot camp in World War II, Australia. Right away, this movie takes no time to learn which of these guys you like, which ones you don't like. You have two guys that bond right away. You have Will, which is kind of this soft-spoken guy, and you have Leo, who's this kind of badass Aboriginal Australian. And in the beginning, Leo saves Will's life as he was being sucked down into quicksand or mud during a storm. And let me tell you, watching this movie, when I get to this part, I literally was holding my breath. That would be the worst thing in the world, thinking that stuff's going in his nose, ears, mouth, and it is thick mud. Luckily, he gets pulled out, and from this point going on in this movie, these two are best friends, understandably. In the beginning of this movie, they basically take this whole group of men out into the woods and basically tell them they have so long to make it back to camp, and if even one of them is 1 minute late, they have to start over and do it again. So these men are racing through the woods trying to get to camp, and of course you find out two of them are kind of falling behind. There's a guy named Dez, which kind of runs off, leaving them behind, even though they were asking for some help up this muddy hill, leaves them.
Come on! Mate, give us a hand.
Leo and Will have fallen behind, but at the end, they tell the two guys they can go eat some oranges and rest while everyone else has to go do push-ups, because that is the only soldier that went and helped one of his fellow soldiers when everyone else ran off, leaving him behind, and they can learn something. And so, in the beginning of this movie, you see Dez, he's doing push-ups, and he's just eyeballing Leo, as Leo is eating an orange, and it appears he has left the peel on. Yeah, kind of gross, but okay, maybe that's a thing. You're introduced to some nurses that Leo and Will gonna go and befriend, and then right away they are crossing the Turmer Sea in a giant ship. They're kind of down in the bowels of the boat. Some were playing cards when the air raid sirens go off.
What the hell's that? Somebody air raid siren. They go the 20 mils.
Don't worry, boys.
Knock them bastards out of the sky in no time, man.
And the boat gets sunk. It either gets torpedoed or bombed, and the entire boat explodes. You have Leo. He finds Will right away, but Will is not breathing, and he drags him to what looks like a big piece of metal that's floating, and he gives him CPR, bringing him back to life. So you have 7 survivors. You have 3 basically of the good guys, and you have 4 of the pals, basically of Dez, the kind of turds, the jerks. And these guys don't get along with each other, so now they're stuck on this floating piece of metal, and at one point, one of the bad guys gets pulled in the water by a shark and bites him in half. Now they realize they are being hunted in the middle of the ocean by a giant great white shark. At one point, these guys are injured. One guy's been shot in the face. One of the good guys has a giant head wound, and he's acting really weird and delirious because pretty sure he's concussed and has some brain damage. At one point, the guy that was shot in the face, he gets his leg bit off by the shark. So now he's not only shot in the face, he's now missing a leg. He's not doing so hot. You know, they put a tourniquet around it to try to stop the bleeding. They're trying to clean up the blood because they realize the blood that's leaking off this raft into the water is just attracting the shark even more. And there's this one scene where they find a boat floating around with a motor. Leo decides to go for it, and he ends up basically jumping from a piece of floating shrapnel to another, trying to get to the boat while the shark's trying to attack him. It's a pretty good scene. Finally gets the boat, and they realize the engine doesn't work on it. So they're stuck on this piece of metal with no water, no tools, one can of peaches, some gauze, and a couple grenades and a machine gun. One of the scenes is terrible. All the guys are scared, and Dez has decided to sleep with a grenade in his hand. But while he was sleeping, he pulled the pin. Leo wakes to the sound of a grenade rolling down metal. When he wakes up and looks, the grenade had rolled down into the guy that's missing a leg and been shot in the face. And he decides to save his friends, and he rolls onto the grenade, blowing himself up in the process. And of course, this even causes more turmoil between the groups because Dez just has not a care in the world. He basically says, yeah, he was dying anyways. He was bleeding out. He wouldn't have made it through the night. After being stuck on the raft for quite a while, they decide to divvy up the peaches when they realize someone opened and ate all the peaches.
We should divvy up some of them peaches. We don't get something in our guts soon. This heat's gonna kill us. What the hell is this? Which one of you dirty bastards ate all the goddamn peaches? Tommy? Did you eat all the peaches?
Yeah.
You bloody killed us.
Ends up the guy with the head wound said he ate them, but it's okay. There's a lot of cans left on the ship. They've told him the ship has sunk numerous times in this movie. Doesn't remember. So now, again, they have zero food, except for the one guy who had a can of peaches. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is Leo decides to drink his own piss. And so he's peeing in a canteen while everyone's making fun of him. And he says, hey, it's fine. I'm just going to live a couple more days than any of you. And he ends up drinking the pee, and everyone else follows suit. When he's done, he lays down and says, refreshing. So they all start peeing in their canteens and drinking it. It's this really funny scene. And then, of course, as they're all gagging, it starts to pour. So now they've got some water, which is very ironic. At one point, they are attacked by a Japanese plane, and Leo's trying to shoot it down with a machine gun.
What are you doing?
And gets shot in the chest, but he shoots the plane down, which is awesome. Then you get this really weird scene where they're all floating there. None of them are looking good. There's only 3 people left on the raft. You've got Dez, Leo, and Will. And in comes the Japanese soldier holding a samurai sword. And he drops the samurai sword, so they decide not to attack him. And of course, as soon as he gets within distance, he starts attacking everyone. And he starts beating everyone up to the point where the only thing they can do is Dez sacrifices himself by using a bomb that was attached to the piece of shrapnel they're floating on and blows them both up while Will and Leo are in the water. Finally, it's just the 2 of them left. They're floating in the little boat because the piece of metal is now blown up that they've been floating on, and Leo is fed up. He's shot, he's bleeding in the front and back. He ends up diving into the water face to face with the shark, ends up cramming a grenade down the shark's throat, gets his arm bit off, but the shark explodes, and then Will pulls Leo back onto the boat, fixes the engine, and they motor the little boat off into the distance. And that is the end of the movie. So the first time I watched this movie, I had never heard of this movie before. Somehow I never saw a trailer for it. One of the podcasts I listened to, the Horror Squad podcast, they were going to do an episode on it, and so I decided to check it out. I do like shark movies, so I thought this would be a fun one. The first time I watched it, I was having fun. You know, there's some comedy in this movie that hits throughout. I liked every bit of comedy in this. I find myself laughing a lot. It is a horror, more horror than comedy, but the comedy hits, which I really like. I had fun watching it all the way to the end. And then I kind of had an epiphany a couple days later that it was a fun movie, but I don't know if it would be one I would ever rewatch. So rewatchability on this movie, I don't think is really high. For me, I kind of felt like this was a fun one, but in a year, I probably won't remember seeing it, only because it is a low budget movie. The characters are cool, but you really don't connect too much to them. And the beginning of this movie is awesome. When they're in boot camp and you're having all the confrontations between the two, that's all a lot of fun. You have a lot of things in this movie that go nowhere. One of them is you get this whole scene of Leo getting to know these nurses. He's flirting like crazy with these nurses, and you kind of feel like, okay, this is going to come into play later. I kind of felt like maybe these nurses at one point were going to come in and save them, floating on a raft, half dead. Later on, doesn't happen. They have all these scenes with these nurses, and then they tell them to be careful, and you never see them again. And then you also have Leo throughout this movie is having all these flashbacks to a bad memory of, I'm guessing, his kid or brother drowned and attacked by a shark when they were younger. And it's a reoccurring nightmare he has throughout this. And I get maybe it's to establish that he does not like sharks. That also really goes nowhere either. I really feel like it didn't add to the story at all, which, you know, it's just adding runtime at that point. They do have a practical shark. It's not a CGI shark. So anytime the shark is on screen, this is freaking awesome. I mean, the shark looks frightening. It's almost got like cataract eyes. They're all glossed over white. It has damage on it, so you can tell the shark's been through a lot, and it is massive. And so when the shark is attacking, it's awesome. And it's not always just the same attack over and over. You get different attacks every single time, which doesn't get old. But once the boat crashes and they're floating on this piece of metal, you've gone to basically a one-set movie from that point going forward, which wouldn't be a bad thing, and I think they pulled that part off pretty well. The part I didn't like is they decided to put him into a fog bank. And I get it's cheaper to do that than it is to try to build a backdrop set, but the whole movie from that point on is them floating in fog in the water. And I get that's probably a budgetary thing, but it just kind of gets old after a while. I will say the sound design in this is really cool. The sound, everything makes in the ocean, especially during the sinking scene, is awesome. One of the guys has an air raid siren that he's always winding up that's broken, so it makes this really nasty noise. When that guy gets attacked by the shark, that siren gets lodged onto the shark's fin. So from that point going on, you can hear when the shark's coming, almost like Jaws, how they use the barrels. This one used that, and it is a creepy, eerie sound, and I loved that. The sound design was spot on.
Jesus Christ. What is that sound?
You know, the character building I thought was really well. Right away in this movie, you know who you like and you dislike, and I think that works very well. It takes no time to get going. Once they get through boot camp, this movie goes straight to the ocean, and chaos hits, and from that point going on, there's always something going on, so I like that as well. I already said the shark looks great. The grenade scene in this movie where that guy has to roll onto the grenade. At first I thought that was a dream, and then I realized it was not, but man, what a messed up scene. And then of course you got Dez being like, I was gonna die anyways, so it just makes you hate that guy even more. And of course I already talked about the drinking his own piss scene. That was hilarious. I love that one. Things always work out for these guys. Obviously their boat sinks, that sucks, they're in the middle of the ocean, but they need a boat. Oh, hey, there's a boat. Ah, shoot, the engine doesn't work. Oh, we found some tools, now we can fix the engine. Oh, we found a barrel of gas. Like, it's just everything kind of falls into place and is very, you know, it's just very lucky. So I do recommend this movie. It is a good watch. I think from this point going on, I'm going to rate them as like skip, rent, or buy. This one's a good rent one. Not one I think I'd ever want to own. It's funny because Jaws, I can watch that over and over and over again. It doesn't get old. It's a lot of fun. This one I felt like was a fun, low budget movie with a good cast, good acting, but it's just not one I think I would watch again. I don't think I would have as much pleasure watching it again. So the rewatchability on this one, I think hurts a little bit in the long run. I do think with a little bit more of a budget, so they can work on set design, I think this movie could be a lot better. I'm not saying this is a bad movie. I highly enjoyed it, but the joy went away pretty quickly. And so that's why I say in a year from now, I'm probably not going to even remember watching this movie. So that's what brings this one down in score a little bit. So what did you think of Beast of War? Did you watch it? Is it one you'd rewatch again? Put it down in the comments down below. Tell me what you thought about it. And as usual, I just want to say thanks for watching the video. This is Zomboy saying stay scary, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.